I do want to say, with our next and final expert for the day, okay, if you don't have a clean pad, get one. If you don't have a new pen, get one, okay? Because he's going to come up here, he's ending our day, he's bringing fire, he's bringing strategies. This guy has sold 4,300 homes himself. He coaches other people on how to sell homes themselves, and he shares it everywhere he goes. So I want to have all of you get up, get the blood moving, and welcome Jay Kinder to the stage.
How you doing?
Yep.
Appreciate you, man. Oh, man, what's up? How's it going? All right. I'm excited to be here, guys. How are y'all doing today? We ready to wrap this thing up? All right, so how many of you feel like when you got your real estate license, they should have just gave you a plaque that says, figure it out, right? So I was the same. So I've been in real estate now 28 years. So I got my license. Actually, I was mowing yards for my dad's rental properties. That's how I found out about real estate. I went in to get paid one day, and this guy was getting a check for like $5,000. And he didn't look like he had sweat or done anything. And I was like, what did he do? Because my dad was in real estate, but he was in property management. So I never really saw him going on listings or buyers or doing any of that kind of stuff. He was just boring is what it looked like to me as far as real estate went. But he bought a Coldwell Banker franchise the year I graduated high school, and he had all these agents that were selling real estate. And so I went in there and saw this little guy, Rusty, sold a house and made $5,000. I was like, well, that sounds better than $350 I'm getting this week, right, for weed eating the tall grass and all the rentals that people moved out of. And so I got my real estate license, but nobody told me that there's no plan. There's literally nothing. Like, you get your license and then it's like, figure it out. That's it. That's the game. And so now if you're ambitious enough, you can figure it out. And luckily I did eventually figure it out. But I went to this is how naive I was, and I was young, but I was very, very naive. I went to every event that I could go to just trying to figure out, like, how do you get customers? It's not like I could get referrals. I mean, the people that were my age were still in college doing cake stands. Like, there's nobody that I knew buying houses, so I didn't have anybody as a sphere of influence. And so eventually I ended up going to this Does anybody remember Roger Butcher? Okay, everybody in real estate's got my money, so there ain't nobody that sold something that I didn't buy. I bought everybody's stuff. Went to Mike Ferry, and it was prospecting. I bought tapes, y'all, tapes. Literally, I'm not joking, these were tapes. One was green, one was red. One you listen to while you're driving around, one you listen to while you're sleeping. Man, I learned those scripts. I'd wake up saying, when do you plan on moving? When do you plan on moving? Like, it was crazy, right? So but I would learn a little something at every one. This, like, buy referral only. Of course, it's buy referral only. Yes, it's buy referral only. Like, then you go to the next guy and it's Proctor, and go to these events. So it's direct response marketing. That was where I started to learn, okay, maybe there's something in this marketing thing that I needed to pay attention to. I always felt like I got something, but I went to this guy, Roger Butcher, when I was like probably not even 20 years old, and he was teaching this 30-day marketing plan. He had this little thing, little 30-day marketing plan, and I bought the little thing, and I was at the event, and at the break, right before the break, he told me about FSBOs. I had never even heard what a FSBO was. I didn't even know what it was. And so I called my dad. I said, Dad, you mean to tell me people put signs in their yard and they don't have a real estate agent and nobody's calling them? Are you telling me that? And so I literally, in Norman, Oklahoma, which I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma, and I'm at this event, driving around on the break trying to find FSBOs to call in Norman. I'm like, I'm going to get rich. This is the easiest thing I've ever found. Did not work, by the way. Much harder than I thought it was going to be. So I tried everything, and I was just dumb enough to keep trying. Went to all these events, learned a little bit from every one of those things. Ended up figuring out marketing. I got the phone to ring. How many of you, if the phone rings, you pretty much can take it from there? How many of you feel like that? Right? Like, if you get a client, you're pretty good with people, right? Is it the getting customers that's the hard part? No? Y'all suck with people? Or this is a hard business if you suck with people, right? Like, you got to be at least good with people. Y'all good with people? Right. So the hard thing is, how do we find people? And of course, I could do a whole talk on the lifetime value of a business and understanding the first real estate transaction represents 4% of the lifetime value of a client if you create a raving fan. That's a whole nother talk. I could talk about the importance of building a database of people that are raving fans of doing business with you. If we have time, I'll share a cool story about that. But what we're doing today, what I want to share with you guys today is, so I've been at EXP, so my whole journey ended up being, selling 500 plus homes a year for a number of years. Miserable, by the way, when I was doing that. I didn't get any of my time back. I was working every single weekend. And what I fundamentally believe is if we can increase your conversations per day with people that want to buy and sell, that you will sell more real estate. Fundamentally, that's what I've learned. If you increase conversations per day with people that want to buy and sell and are open to doing business with you, every little detail, every idea, everything you probably wrote down all day today, everything comes down to that one principle. Would you all agree with that? If you have meaningful conversations with people that want to buy and sell every day, you're going to sell more real estate. Right? And so what do they tell you to do? You start with in the phone book with A. You do open houses every Sunday. Everything that you're doing, lead gen, all these things are just about trying to increase your conversations per day with people that want to buy and sell. If you can do that, you're going to sell more real estate. And if you don't, you'll get better at the things you say on the phone, right? You can talk to people and say something that doesn't convert them, and you'll get better and you'll convert. But fundamentally, that's just what I believe. And so, interesting thing happened. This was born out of, I'm at EXP. I've been here 8 years. I've done really well with the revenue share. It's been amazing, life-changing, no question about it. If you're not at EXP, you should be considering it seriously. But as I came to EXP, I coached agents for a number of years. I came over to EXP, and about 3 years ago, there was a potential threat. And I've got 7 generations that I get paid on, and on my last one is a really big one. And if I drop below 40, if you guys understand EXP how it works, I might lose basically about $135,000 a month. So I had a $1.6 million potential problem. And I said, how do I make an agent? I solved this problem with the highest level of focus I've ever focused on anything in my life. It was that big of a problem. One agent could be the difference in me making $135,000 this month or not. So how do I make sure I make that agent successful? Now, I've never tried to solve it with the level of intensity that I solved this problem with, but I said, how would I make sure that someone is going to be successful? And I'm like, well, I know what I did. I know what, all these things you can do. I'm looking at every little thing that you could possibly do. And we landed on one thing that is by far the most duplicatable, that works every time. 100% of the time I can get somebody to close the deal. And we went to work on that. And that was essentially increasing conversations per day through lead generation. So we became very, very good at lead generation. You can generate leads all day long at $3 to $5 in cost per lead. I talked to a guy last week. He was buying Realtor.com leads, $62.50 per lead. How many leads does he have to get before he's going to talk to one that's going to buy? It's going to take him a lot longer. If you get a volume of conversations of people that want to buy and sell, you're going to sell a house faster than someone else. And so I just believe if we can get at least 100 leads, you're going to have a conversation with 20 to 30 of those, depending on how quickly you call them. That's the number one metric. MIT study says if you call a lead in the first 5 minutes, you're 106 times more likely to make contact than if you call them after 5 minutes. Does that make sense? If you call them quickly, they're in real estate mode, right? What happens after that? They scroll, they're doing something else. Now they don't even know who you are. They're always saying, what do they say? You call them back, I didn't fill anything out, right? So speed to lead is super important. But what's happened now lately is since I moved back from Puerto Rico. I lived there 4 years. I moved back and I was like, man, how do we do this at scale? Like, how do we help every single agent get lead generation that's really predictable? And then ChatGPT starts getting better and better and better. And I said, okay, well, we understand marketing, so how would we do this? So when we go into a marketplace, and I want you to think about this. You guys all use ChatGPT or one of all of these every day, right? You treat it like God, ask every question you can think of, right? It's the most amazing thing you could ever use. So in your marketplace right now, how many of you would agree that there's some people that are buying and selling and a lot of people aren't, right? We're on pace for 4.06 million home sales, the worst year in real estate since 95 last year, and we're on pace to be right at the same this year. Is it slower? Is it different? Is everybody feeling that? But who are the buyers and sellers that are buying and selling right now? Exactly, the ones that have to. So this is really interesting. If you go to ChatGPT and you say, what is the price point in my marketplace that is selling the most, right? It could be a part of town that's selling better, a city that's outside of town that's selling better, but a price bracket that's selling better. It could be in a school district that's better. But I promise you, there is one that's selling better than the others. And so when you identify this, what is the best market to go after? It's going to give you the price band. Now, you can go back into ChatGPT and say, okay, for this price of home in this location, what are the most likely buyers that will be looking to buy this home? And interestingly, and then ask it to give you what are their hopes, fears, concerns, and desires, because you're going to need that later. it's going to give you some interesting things. So I'll tell you what it did for me in Frisco, and I live in Frisco, Texas now. But in Frisco, and I knew that these are things that you'll know, you kind of inherently know, but you would have never used this information the way I'm going to tell you to. I wouldn't have anyways. And so when you do this in Frisco, Texas, it tells me there's two types of buyers. One, they live in Carrollton or the Colony, and they want to move to Frisco to get their kids in Frisco School District. Made perfect sense to me. That's why we lived in Frisco. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So these are people that have a home to sell and are going to be moving to Frisco. And so that's the most likely. So if I generate 100 leads with an ad, and I'll tell you the type of ad we're using. We use a new construction ad or a price reduced or just listed. Those are our three fundamental offers. New construction is really cool because how many of you guys have new construction here? Yeah. Okay, so are they offering incentives? Yeah. Okay, so if you bake that into the ad, a 3.9% financing or whatever the incentives are, these homes must sell fast. They click on a link. This goes to a Bold Trail or a Lofty where it's called a lead ad on Facebook. You can generate these leads all day long at $3 to $5 a lead. $3 a lead, $300 budget gets you 100 leads. So very, very consistent, very predictable. Every market's a little bit different. So I talked to probably 15 agents a day. They're all in different markets. Every market is a little bit different. They're all tilting the same way now towards more inventory, except for like New Jersey for some reason. In Jersey, for some reason, there's not much inventory, so it's a different market. Plus, they don't have new construction, so they have a different offer we use there. But with new construction, so you can bake that into the ad. Now, when you have a conversation, when you call a person that clicked on new construction and it said 3% financing, when they land on the page, they don't know what incentives are offered which incentives are offered by who. So when you call that person, you have something of value that you can have a conversation with them about because they're interested, you know what they're interested in, and now you know who they are. And so in Frisco, there was the person that lives, that lives in the Colony or Carrollton, and they gave me 3 cities that they're likely moving from to Frisco. I was like, okay, that's very interesting. And then there's the other subset in Frisco is people moving from Washington, California, and Oregon. Tech job in Frisco at either Toyota or Dr. Pepper Keurig, and it's giving me all this information, right? Like super detailed information about exactly who the most likely person. Now, out of 100 leads, I promise you they're not all one of those people, but there's probably 8 or 10 out of that 100 for sure, maybe more, that fit that exact criteria. And what we're doing now is we can create content that we can force into consumption. And this is not a strategy for building a YouTube channel, by the way, even though we do put this information on YouTube. We're going to take, and we run this back through ChatGPT, and we say, give me 10 good scripts based on that buyer's hopes, fears, concerns, and desires, so I can make content that will be valuable to that particular person, right? So does everybody follow me so far, okay? Is this hard? It's not hard yet. This is the easy part. So the content is, first of all, if you just call the leads, you get 100 leads and you just call and you just do what I'm telling you to do, the numbers are the numbers, Lee can tell you, you're going to sell a house, period. And so on the back end of this, what we do is we create videos. So like the first video might be the top 3 things you should know before you ever put your kids in the Frisco School District. The hard thing about lead generation, the reason why everybody says leads suck is because they don't know who you are. Would you guys agree with that? If they knew who you were, they would love you. They would do business with you. But the only way they can know that you're really good at what you do is you've done business with them. That's why we all love referrals. These are strangers. And in real estate, the most successful agents are not the best agents. The most successful agents are the ones that are the best marketers. We all have an agent that we know in our market or in our office that sells more real estate than you do, and they're not a better agent than you. It's learning marketing. Once you understand how to acquire a customer at a super low cost, this is the best business you could ever be in. You could literally spend $300, make $15,000, do it over and over and over and over again once you learn these skills. But with ChatGPT, you can really dial in specifically and talk to the person that you're trying to talk to. And so when you shoot this content and put it into the follow-up sequence, now they're consuming content. You're only going to get a hold of 20 to 30 of them, but the rest of them are consuming content with benefit-rich headlines talking specifically to their hopes, fears, desires, and concerns. What does that do when they watch that video? Well, that's going to increase your contact rate because that's all we're trying to do, really. But it's going to make them start to know, like, and trust you. They start to see that, hey, you're the person that helps people that are doing exactly what it is I'm trying to do. Now, whenever you call, text, email through automations, hopefully, you're going to get a lot more contact rate. You're going to have a lot more conversations, or they'll just pick up the phone and call you because they've been watching all your videos. So this is what we've been doing is we bring agents into EXP. We have a system, a process, we identify that, we do a strategy, we put it all in place. They have to shoot those videos. We can use AI to do that, but it just comes off as corny. It's better if it's you. But it works extremely well. And so this is the number one, it's the number one thing I've ever seen work. I've done a lot of cool stuff in real estate that's worked. I've never seen anything work as good as really understanding exactly who the buyer, the most likely person to move right now in this marketplace or your marketplace, wherever you guys are from. I guarantee you there are people that are moving and they're doing it for a very specific reason. If you can dial in your messaging to match that, you will build a business that it's far easier than it's ever been because you can get that information out of ChatGPT. We used to do this when we guessed. We guessed pretty good, I guess, because it worked. But it works a lot better whenever you utilize ChatGPT to identify those ideal customer profiles. So that's the number one thing that we're doing. So I'll tell you a quick story, and then we'll finish up. So that's a right. If you go down back and do one thing, this would be the one thing I would tell an agent that I can help you sell at least 1 to 2 houses, maybe 3, with just this one strategy and a $300 ad budget. It's really that simple, and you should get a lender to pay for it. So everybody should be doing that if you're not doing it. So I have a guy so I had an agent. This guy was a real estate agent. He got his license, I guess, recently, or he was about to pass his test. And he was an Uber driver. He was taking me and a friend of mine to a Mavericks game. And he said, man, he just started talking. You ever get an Uber driver that just talks the whole time? And so he's just like excited, got his real estate license. He's telling us about it. Well, the guy I'm sitting with sold 1,000 homes a year on the way to this game. It was me and my son Riggs and this guy Ryan Finch, who used to sell a ton of real estate. And the three of us are on the way, and he's like, yeah, I got my license, and I interviewed 9 brokerages. I'm not interested in EXP. I'm going to this company. And I'm like, he just got his plaque is what he got. He's about to learn a lesson because there's nobody going to do it for you, right? And so I said, I wasn't trying to recruit him. I was just trying to go to a basketball game, but I was like, I couldn't help it because I knew he didn't know what he doesn't know. Like, she promised to take pictures for his business card, and that was about the end of it. And so I said, dude, do this. Just do this one thing. Go back and say, what are you going to do from day one? This is what I wish I would have asked this question. I would have asked my dad this question. It wouldn't have helped. But from day 1 to day 90, what is your plan? Because I asked him, I said, what is your goal, man? He said, I don't want to have to drive Uber anymore. I said, okay. I said, so go back and ask him, you say, we did the math. How many houses you have to sell? It's 1 a month. That's it. I said, you're going to get licensed and you're going to go join this brokerage and you're going to be sitting there trying to figure out how are you going to sell 1 house a month. And there's nobody that's talked to you about how to do that yet. He said, I don't know yet. No. I said, okay, so ask him, what's the plan from day 1 to day 90 to get you selling at least a house a month? So he goes back to the broker. I didn't think I'd hear from him again. He goes back to the broker. He says, hey, I met with these guys from EXP and they said, I should ask this question. So, what's the plan to get me? I need to sell 1 house a month. What's the plan? And she got flustered apparently and was just like, well, if you think they're more valuable, then you should just go with them. So she didn't answer the question. She didn't have an answer to the question, obviously. But he calls me and he's like really bewildered. He's like, man, I can't believe that, she let me go. Like, I'm like, you asked her a question and she didn't have an answer to. Like, you're not getting anybody to help you with your business. Like, that's how this works in real estate, unfortunately. And so he comes on board, and this guy's, he's not the best example because I didn't know if this was going to work or not. He wasn't very personable, but he was very ambitious. And I was like, I'll take ambition, but it would sure be helpful if you're also a little bit personable. But hopefully, this is going to work out. And so we build these ads for him. He starts getting on the phone. He's doing okay. He's having a little bit of success. Actually, on day 3, we do a review. We look at the ads, make sure everything's working. And we do a review of this guy. He's got a buyer and a seller. Now, he thinks he's got a buyer and a seller. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, you think you got a buyer and a seller. That's not how this works either. You got a lot to learn probably still. And then he's got another buyer. So he thinks he's got 3 in the first 3 days of us turning the ads on. I was like, this is unbelievable. I said, okay. So he was at my house this last Friday, and he closed his 10th transaction that day. He was so excited, so happy, doesn't drive Uber anymore, and he sees his life going down the track of the opportunity of real estate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was so proud of him because, he did the work. He was a pain. He was a little bit of a pain in the butt, to be honest, but he did the work, right? And he's having the success, and his life is going to change because hopefully partially because he met me. And that, there was the gentleman that was up here earlier talking. talking about like making an impact, like that's what makes me happy. The money is fine. The money takes care of itself. When you add value to someone's life and you see their life change and the trajectory of where they're going change, man, there's nothing better in the world than that. Nothing more satisfying in the world than that. And so for him to have that happen, he didn't even know this, but he capped at EXP with that 10th transaction. So he didn't even know. He's like, cap? What's that mean? I was like, okay, dude, you're 100% commission from here on out. And he's like, 100%? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's awesome. Like, he's so pumped up. But anyways, I wanted to share that story. So like, if you have someone that will help you grow your business, this is what's missing in real estate. And wherever you're at right now, if you're not EXP, you're probably not getting help. And what you find when you join this family is that people will help you. People will help you grow your business. You're not in it, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And so strongly consider, if you're not with us, consider it. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great day.